Dreamer Place.
Hi guys, welcome back to my second video in my top 5 series where we look at all sorts of random rankings whatsoever. So previously we looked at the top 5 normal awakened heroes who should be remade. In this video we're going to look at the top 5 special heroes who desperately need a remake. And I think seeing this title you guys already should have guessed that a particular female hero should be in this video. Yeah. So once again, this remake of old special heroes is purely in the goal of diversifying arena once again to make different teams viable against each other. This is also one of Netmarble's goals and what most players want as well. And before we begin, I just want to say that lots of effort is put into this video again, so if you could give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and lastly let me know which of the remakes you like the best. Okay, so just a disclaimer here, all the heroes in this video have no confirmed future awakenings at this moment in time. Okay, so let's take a look at our first hero. For our first hero on the list, as you guys have all expected, it is Vanessa, the Time Wizard. Okay, this girl has great stats but really needs to maximize her potential and survive. So her passive 4-turn immunity, okay, basically means she has an inbuilt willful ring, survives on 1 HP, and also has an innate debuff resist rate increased by 50%. Okay, and her exclusive item actually gives her more bulkiness. For 1 hit, she will not take more damage more than 20% of her max HP. Okay, otherwise 1 piercing skill is really going to wreck her. So that is fine actually if you think about piercing skill, because for my remake I am going to give her piercing nullification. Okay, so she will be the first hero who has turn immunity as well as piercing nullification, and this makes her untouchable for 4 turns. Okay, I mean, I have to go bold with her. Vanessa freaking deserves her moment. So yeah, so she can keep her exclusive item but give her that piercing nullification because it would be huge. Okay, so for her first skill, Sandstorm, currently it inflicts 100% on 3 enemies 2 times, also do damage equal to 30% of the enemy's max HP, decreases hit shield buffs. Okay, and what I think here is that it is really too little output. Too little damage done. Okay, even though there's a damage done equal to 30% of max HP, but really, I mean, really too little. Okay, so this is what I propose. Amp the 100% to 120% on 4 enemies instead of 3. Okay, 2 times. Finally, it will always be critical. Okay, it will always be critical. And for the enhanced version of it, it will be amped to 180% on 4 enemies 2 times. Total of 360%. Inflicts damage, okay, still will keep the inflicting damage on equal to 30% of the enemy's max HP. Okay, remove buff, crit, and also for her enhanced version, she has a chance to paralyze target for 2 turns. Okay, why paralyze? Because I guess, you know, Sandstorm, you are bound to get stuck. Yeah, so that is my idea of a Sandstorm, and I guess I'll give her paralyze on her enhanced version. Okay, so for Desert Tidal Wave, which is her second skill, she inflicts 90% on all enemies 2 times, ignore defense, reduce buff duration by 2 turns only. Okay, I think this is still not good enough, of course. Only 1 ignore defense. Okay, another problem with her when we used her when she debuted was that her output, even though it's on paper wise it looked like that's a lot of damage done by her, and she has the highest magic stat, okay, before Awakened Ring, I think. And but her output was really low. Okay, so for her second skill, Revamp, I'm gonna increase it just a little bit by 10%. However, she will do 3 times, okay, on all enemies, which means 300% up from 180%. Not only is it gonna enough defense, it will also be piercing. This will become a piercing skill even in her normal unenhanced form. Okay, and in her enhanced form, it will be amped to 130% 3 times, which means a 390%. Okay, ignore defense and pierce. Piercing is already on the enhanced form. Okay, and not only that, it will reset the cooldown of Sandstorm. Okay, so this will actually make Desert Tidal Wave very useful in so many ways, because it actually helps to cool down her other skill and give it more chance to be used. Okay, so for her Awaken skill, she turns back time, she recovers full HP, becomes immune to 4 turn damage again, resets your allies awaken skills, charges allies awaken gauge, removes all debuffs. Okay, and she also becomes a kid, right? So how do kids behave? For this remake, I'm gonna give her agility. Okay, so don't encourage extreme violence against children. I mean, she will only take 1 hit per multi hit. Okay, and basically also she resets the skill cooldown for all allies. So kind of like when she uses her awaken skill, it becomes a full reset for your team. Okay, I think this is very important, because I mean, turn back time and not resetting your skill cooldown, why? Just give it to her. And this will really be quite a game changer, I feel. So what do you guys think about Vanessa with this skill set? Can she finally be reused? Let me know in the comments, and we'll head over to hero number 2. Next up, we have McCoy. McCoy is one of the first Dark Knights to be released and honestly has a super outdated skill set. Just take a look at his passive. Okay, he increased lethal rate by 50% and he needs 3 magic allies in order to have 7-time Void Shield. Okay, that is really not efficient in the current meta. Okay, he protects magic type from cooldown, increased debuffs. This one I will keep. I like this. And he survives on 1 HP. Okay, so I have the idea that McCoy is kind of like a very magic leader kind of role. Yeah, so for his remake, I'm giving him these new abilities. He deals additional 40% damage on offensive and universal type enemies. All magic allies deal additional 20% damage on offensive and universal type enemies. Okay, so he himself gets 40%, while your whole team of magic heroes will get 20%. Furthermore, I kind of had a partial magic Teo build for him. Okay, so on every third attack, or when he does a basic attack on a target with block nullification, he will trigger not Wild Fury, but something called Experimented Chaos. Okay, so what is Experimented Chaos? Basically, for Experimented Chaos, he inflicts 200% 2 times on 2 enemies with highest defense, inflicts 2000 fixed damage, reduced buff by 2/10. So there is a lot of 2 here. Okay, and don't note that there is no piercing, unlike Teo's. Okay, and also in PvP, I don't want to give him something like Teo's broken shield. I want to model around that. So in PvP, he'll get Dark Magic Aura on every attack received. So what does Dark Magic Aura do? Basically, it casts a shield on McCoy, and all damage is transferred to that shield up to 4000 damage. And McCoy also alleviates all damage by 60%. Alleviates by 60% is something similar or identical to Platine, who has the same effect. Basically, in alleviation, you reduce all damage received by 60% except fixed damage. Okay, so basically, a McCoy can still receive damage, but it is absorbed through a shield and also reduces damage taken. Okay, so then let's take a look at his skill 1, Restricted Experiment. Inflicts 180% of 4 enemies, inflicts 2500 fixed damage, and decrease hit you buffs by 3 hits. Okay, I think the output is pretty still alright, but I'm gonna increase it to 120% 2 times on 4 enemies, and decrease hit shield buffs. We'll keep that. And furthermore, on top of this, we're gonna nullify block for this skill. Okay, this will tie in nicely with his Experimented Chaos passive, right? For his skill 2, we have Stolen Darkness. Currently inflicts 120% magic damage on 3 enemies, 2 times, piercing and crits. Okay, so it's pretty basic, I would say. For this one, we will increase the damage that he is doing to 150%. Okay, and also offsets defense. Okay, so most of the things are the same, just more output from him, because I remember this to be a very strong skill. Finally, for his awakened skill Dark Liberation, he inflicts 110% on 4 enemies 2 times, pierce and reduce blast duration. So this is currently, okay, so we're gonna take this to another level also. I'm gonna increase the damage output by a little bit, 120%, but 3 times, okay, still pierce. However, buff duration is reduced by 4 turns, okay, 4 turns, and decreases awakening gauge of the enemies by a fixed amount, okay. So this is another magic hero with a decreasing awakening gauge, okay. I'm just gonna give that to him, because I think currently the meta has a lot of heroes with awakened passives, and I think this skill to decrease awakening gauge is gonna be more and more blatant in arena, yeah. So for his exclusive item, I would suggest changing it totally and giving him something similar to Teo. For one hit, the damage received will not exceed 20% of the max HP. Okay, so basically a really similar build to Teo overall. Okay, but just different kind of mechanics, and yeah, I think that should work for Magic Hero over here. So with that, we are gonna move on to our third hero. So for our third hero, after 2 magic heroes, it is time for some offensive balancing, and here we have Miho, the nemesis of Rin. So how can she be left out? And if anything, I think she is the best hero to be remade at this point to actually create the diversity that we need. Okay, so for her passive, it is extremely outdated and useless. 12 hit Void Shield is not gonna last her for very long. Okay, she also gives her allies 2-time debuff immunity, which is too little at this point in time. So for her revamp, I'm gonna give her complete revamp. Okay, basically, she will only take 20% per hit, okay, of her max HP. She will reduce all magic damage taken for herself by 50%. Okay, do note that this is not limited to magic type heroes damage, but magic damage overall, okay? And she will increase her debuff resist rate by 50%. Okay, finally, she will activate Tigress Vengeance every time an enemy dies. So what is Tigress Vengeance? Something I just created again. Tigress Vengeance actually is inflicting 3000 fixed damage to all enemies and resetting the cooldown for one of her skill. Okay, so Miho herself has pretty long cooldown, so I think having this will be great for her, and it fits in with her lore and personality a lot because she's that hysterical woman. Okay, so every time she sees an enemy fall, I think she will get really high. So 3000 fixed damage to the whole enemy team. Next, she will also be granted Mania, okay, if there are 3 or more enemies of the same type on the opposing team. Okay, so what is Mania? Mania basically means she survives on 1 HP and she gains 50% vitality for 4 times. So basically what Jave has. However, this is only dependent on the enemy team composition. And of course, against dedicated type teams such as physical or magic or whatever, she becomes more vicious and she will stick around longer. Okay. Of course, this is meant to strongly counter teams with very mono type teams like Rin and Lupu. Okay, and also certain death teams. Okay, so this is basically what I imagine her to be. She will be that hero to counter all these teams. Okay, so for her first skill, Dance of Carnage, it currently inflicts 110% on 3 enemies with the highest physical and magic attack 2 times. Okay, always crits and electrifies. I will revamp this, okay, because the point of her targeting the 3 enemies with highest physical and magic attack is very likely that they made her to target Rin, okay, who has very high magic attack. And currently we know that Rin is not going to be touchable unless your enemies drop. So I revamped her to be inflicting 60% on the same criteria 4 times. This will definitely allow her to touch Rin once one of the enemy falls. Okay. Also, basically most of it is the same. Basically, it's just increasing it to 4 times and at 60%. Okay. For her skill 2, Arrogant Strike. Currently, it also inflicts 100% on 3 enemies with highest physical and magic attack, reduce blast duration by 3 turns and increase enemy skill cooldown by 25%. I will revamp this to 60% 4 times as well. Okay, keeping the reduction of buff duration by 3 turns, increasing enemy skill cooldown by 20 seconds, okay, not 25, so I nerfed this slightly. However, to compensate this, I have given her increased damage by 20% for each empty enemy slot. Okay, so this is also to fit in with her personality. Once an enemy falls, she will greatly increase her powers for this skill, and she will do a lot more damage with this particular skill. Okay, so basically that's the concept and logic behind when I was redesigning this skill for her. Finally, we have Awaken skill. Okay, currently it only inflicts 50% 3 times, pierce and randomizes formation and position. So I find it very interesting that her Awaken skill actually does much lower damage, okay, than her other 2 normal skills. Okay, so for this, I'm going to increase it to 90% 3 times. It will pierce and it will always do critical damage. Next, it will also randomize, and finally it will do bleed, and it is able to reset for 1 time. Just 1 time. So this is the Awaken skill that I kind of revamped for her. Basically, the bleed is kind of meant to counter any sort of immunity that they have. Yeah, and just give her additional status. So for exclusive item, I decided to really revamp it. Change it to something similar to Rin, whereby we have 2 stages with proper non-stat boost. Okay, so for stage 1, her passive, she will gain self-immunity to Awakening Gauge reduction skill. So if you unlock this, then her Awakening Gauge cannot be reset, and she will just use her Awakening skill whenever necessary for 2 times, right? Keeping her stage 2 because she has pretty long cooldown. And finally, for her stage 3, Dance of Carnage, her skill 1, she will actually do lifesteal of 20% of the damage dealt. So this is actually to sustain her and not let her die so quickly. And I think this is a very important stage that for this revamp wise, she should have her healing capability. Okay? So basically that is all I have for Miho. What do you think of Miho? I actually kind of enjoyed designing her, and hopefully she does make a comeback for our meta. Moving on to hero number 4. If the second Hidden Master gets remade, what about the first? So our 4th hero is Callahan. Welcome back, Callahan sir. Okay, do you guys still remember how insane his evasion was? And as he was the first hero in our global server to actually get evasion. At this point, he has 5 void shields and also increases his own attack by 50%. I really thought about it whether he should still have a chance to evade all attacks, because right now accuracy rate increase is so real. Currently, what his passive gives is only by chance. Okay, so I decided to make him have agility instead. He has a 7-time void shield this time, becomes immune to reflect and marker nullification. He has a similar effect to McCoy, which I just remade earlier. He deals additional 40% damage to magic and defensive heroes. All offensive heroes on the team will deal additional 20% damage on magic and defensive type heroes. Okay, so he has taken the form of the physical offensive leader kind of thing. Okay, then he also have Golden Enlightenment. Okay, basically this will include his increase of 50% physical attack. Also, for every skill used, he will gain 1 time of immunity of all attacks, 1 time void shield basically, and he can only accumulate this effect by up to 2. So basically this is my revamp. So he has survivability based on agility, and he's also able to gain void shields as it comes, okay, if he uses his skill. So for his first skill, Gale Blast, inflicts 60% physical damage on all enemies 2 times, pierce and ignore defense. Okay, so its names actually suggest of a more deafening effect. Okay, so we are going to keep the AoE piercing and the ignore defense, of course, but we're going to increase the damage output by up to 90% 2 times. Then we're also going to give it a decreased target's awakening gauge by a fixed amount and decrease target's recovery rate by 80% for 2 turns. So why am I giving him this decreased awakening gauge skill on a normal skill instead of an awakened skill? Because I feel that it's quite unfair for offensive heroes. If you think about it, you have Sylvester who actually can constantly reduce awakening gauge. You have Rin who has it on her normal skill. However, for offensive heroes, only Teo has it on an awakened skill, and for Lu Bu and Ryan, you need to unlock their exclusive item before they can even decrease awakening gauge. So I think it's slightly unfair towards offensive heroes, and hence I remade him to have this effect on a regular skill. For his second skill, Protecting Whirlwind, it inflicts 100% physical damage 2 times on 3 enemies with highest attack, and also critical hit will be applied, reduced buff duration by 3 turns. For my revamp, I will slightly tweak the damage mechanic, which means I inflict 80% 3 times instead of 2 times on 4 enemies instead, and also have decrease of hit shield buff. Over here, there will be priority effect for this skill, okay? Priority effect to decrease buff duration by 3 turns. So basically, I just changed his regular buff duration, which is already on the original skill, to make it a priority effect. And I think currently no offensive hero has the priority effect. So this is why Callahan will be kind of the hero with many firsts, okay? Finally, for his awakened skill, he inflicts 200% of physical damage on all enemies, pierces and paralyzed. I remember how terrible his paralyzed is. It was very deadly. I'm gonna revamp this. It's gonna be 180%, slight drop but 2 times. Ignore defense, applies critical hit, and pierce. It will be super strong. It was still paralyzed. It will actually restore his HP by 100%. And also increase the physical attack of all allies by 100% 5 times. Okay, so this will actually make his awakened skill have much more utility instead of just doing pure damage, and this will be a huge revamp from his original awakened skill. So for his exclusive item, I think we can keep this actually. We can keep the increased debuff resist rate by 50% because I think he will need it. It will be very good for him. Okay? So this is basically what I have for Callahan. Very short and sweet, but definitely making him so much more competitive in the current meta. And we'll move on to our final hero right now. So I actually had 3 contenders for the final spot, to be honest: Callahan, Akela and Spike. All 3 are bulkier heroes, and since I have covered 4 speed heroes, I think we really need a remake for a bulkier hero. And here I have chosen Akela. Callahan is still being used in tank and semi-tank teams for universal support, and I think Spike had his time. And of course, he is a 7 knight, so I think he should be the best choice for a remake, but Amelia is just too awesome right now. And we know that Akela has been a very controversial hero, and Netmarble refuses to give her that role that she deserves in the tank team. So this is going to be my take on her, and she will become a super fun hero to use. So basically for her passive Dark Shepherd, okay, she received damage higher than her current HP. She survives with 1 HP, gets 3 void shields. Every third attack she inflicts 2500 piercing fixed damage. She also has this extra skill called Protection of Darkness buff on her. Basically, if your team has 3 or more offensive heroes, she will have full block and also alleviate 60% of the damage received. If your team has 3 or more magic heroes, then she's going to increase her speed attack by 7, takes damage maximum 20% of her max HP, and also decreases defense of her enemies by 60%. So here I'm going to add on one more step. If you have 3 universal heroes, she's going to become immune to reflect damage. She's also going to become immune to all damage for 6 times and 6 turns. So I'm giving her a lot of shields stacked on because I cannot repeat what is already being used for the offensive and magic teams. So this is kind of the best that I come up with. Basically stack on a lot of shields for her and give her immunity to reflect on herself. So for her first skill, Merciless Storm, she currently inflicts 140% physical damage on 4 enemies 2 times, inflict damage equal to 30% of the enemy's max HP, reduce buff duration by 3 turns, increase skill cooldown by 20 seconds. For the remake, most of it I'm gonna keep it the same, but I'm gonna make some slight changes to that second line. I'm introducing something new called Defense Booster. Basically, it inflicts additional damage relative to the caster's defense. So Akela, who has very high defense, will naturally inflict more damage. And if her defense gets reduced, then of course, this skill's damage will also be reduced. So it's actually dependent on her and not dependent on the enemy anymore. This may sound like a nerf, but I think it is kind of gonna be that balance that I'm gonna have in place if I talk about her skill later, which is the Mantle of Darkness. Currently, it reduces damage for all enemies by 60%, decrease hit shield buffs by 3 hits, and removes all debuffs on your allies. I'm gonna give her a new additional skill, or rather a new additional buff for this skill, which is called the Pursuer of Darkness. Basically, it also depends on your type of team. So if you have 3 offensive allies in your team, she will nullify piercing damage for 4 turns. This is on top of her full block and alleviation of 60% damage, okay? So she's gonna be very bulky in an offensive team. If you have more than 3 magic type allies, she will become agile, because somehow she has increased speed in a magic team. So I decided that maybe agility would be good, because currently, as we observe, she has very poor bulk in a magic team, so she cannot be used. But I think giving her that agility could actually, make her more bulky and survive longer in a magic team. Finally, if you have 3 universal type heroes on the team, she will decrease damage received from attacks by offensive and magic type enemies by 80% for 4 turns. So for the final one, I just want to say that because I realized after her shields drop, she's gonna be purely naked. So this additional buff to decrease damage received from offensive and magic enemies is going to really give her the additional bulk she needs in a tank team. So all these skills are 4 turns, can be reduced. Okay, that is to kind of balance it. Finally, for Awakened skill, Extinction. Inflicts 500% physical damage on one enemy, pierces, stuns, decrease offensive type enemies buff duration by 3 turns, remove buffs on magic type enemies. Sadly, this skill is currently not doing what it's supposed to be, which is to make something extinct. Am I right? So I can't help but reference her Korea remake skill set for this skill. She will apply instant death to one enemy. Okay, instant death means not elimination, just instant death, and the hero can still be revived. For her case, she prioritizes the back row, unlike Battery who prioritizes the front row. Furthermore, she inflicts piercing damage equal to 30% of the enemy's max HP to enemies in the same row. So she will also do damage to all the heroes in the same line, depending on the target's max HP. And this is when she slams down on the target, on that single target, okay? She will also do basically collateral damage. Next, she will apply the Extinction effect. Now this is the fun one. So for Extinction effect, it really depends on which target she chooses to eliminate. If the target is offensive, she will reduce enemy's buff duration by 3 turns. If the target is magic, she will decrease the enemy's awakening gauge by a fixed amount. If the target is universal, she will do 2000 fixed damage on the whole enemy team. If the target is defensive, she will nullify the enemy's block completely for 2 turns. If the target is a support type, she will remove all the buffs from the enemy. Okay, so I think this is very unique and I would love to see this on her. Basically, her skill will become dependent on who she chooses to eliminate, and this could be very game changing for your match. Yeah, so that's where the fun is, and kind of RNG, but that's where the variation comes in. It's very interesting because there is actually an actual impact, a positive impact based on whatever RNG that happens. So for exclusive item, I would suggest keeping it. I think it's really useful. Charges all allies awakening gauge significantly faster. This will make Mentor of Darkness a very strong buff skill. So that is all I have for this video. What do you guys think of the remake skill sets I have put up? If you have enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more of such content, and also let me know in the comments which other special hero you would like to see get a remake. In fact, why not pick one of these 3 heroes and let me know, Callahan, Orly or Spike. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.